worked the last couple weeks. Welcome everyone to Thought Shifting Thursdays with me, Patrick Harbula, and I'm going to talk about the Byron Katie work today, and I'm actually going to give us a chance to. I've never done this before, but live video. We're just going to go right through and guide you through how the Byron Katie work or the work works. And so we're going to use this subject of what happened yesterday with the storming of our U.S. Capitol. And so let me tell you a little bit about the class we're doing. So we're doing an 8-week class on Byron Katie's work. And Tuesdays, 6:30 Pacific time. And it is fun stuff. Last week, you can check my video from last week. I read a passage from her book, A Mind at Home with Itself, which is her latest book, and by far her best book yet, in my estimation. And one of the quotes in there is that I really love is she says, "I don't argue with reality because I'm a spiritual person. I don't argue with reality because it hurts." And I would add, I never once win that argument. So the purpose of doing the work is to challenge the beliefs that we have, the thoughts that we have that cause pain. And so, this was a big deal yesterday. This was, a lot of people are upset over what happened. And so I want to look at a different way of framing it, perhaps, where the upset that debilitates us or gets into, inspires us or draws us into watching hours and hours of news over a certain event, and to where we get into a negative spin about it. How to look at it from a different place, a consciousness, a feeling tone that allows us actually to be part of the problem or part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So let's take it step by step. So there's 4 questions to the Byron Katie work, and I'll name them all, and then we'll do the work on this particular topic. So first one, is it true? Second question is, can I absolutely know it's true? And for me, by the way, there's nothing that I can absolutely know is true. And if you're doing the work and you find, yes, I can absolutely know it's true, no problem. That's absolutely fine. It's all about questioning our thoughts. And so, third question is, how do I feel when I believe that thought? And it's always something. I feel constricted, I feel upset, I feel impotent, whatever it might be. Unless if the question is I feel really good about it, then there's no reason to do the work on this particular thought. The fourth question, and this is the most important one, and I ask people to close their eyes when answering this one, is who would you be without this thought? So, and almost always it is an answer like, I would be freer, I would feel better. And so ultimately, what the work brings us to is the understanding, the realization, I actually can choose my thoughts. I can choose to think differently about this. So I'm going to guide us through it. I'm going to be both the guide and the person being guided in this practice, and you can do it along with me. I'm sure that your feelings around this incident yesterday, the storming of the Capitol, are very similar to mine, because we all, probably feel pretty similar to this. There may be some few that feel completely different, and so your answers would be different. And maybe if you feel that, so the question the thought I'm going to begin with is, the mob should not have stormed the Capitol. Seems like a reasonable thought, right? Now there may be some people out there that feel the mob should have, because it was, well, I won't go there, but if you feel comfortable with that thought that they should have stormed it, then no need to watch this video. The mob should not have stormed, writing it down here, the Capitol. So, If you agree with that statement, continue to watch. All right, so the first question then is it true? I'm going to say it's true. They should not have. And the second question is, can I absolutely know that that's true? You may answer yes, absolutely they should not have. I'm going to answer no, because I virtually always do, because I can't know every possibility around this subject. The third question is, and I'm going to close my eyes for this and invite you to do so as well. How do I feel when I believe this thought? The mob should not have stormed the Capitol. I can say outrage. I feel sad. I think there's some degree of fear that more incidents like this could happen, that we could have complete anarchy in our country. I feel a little bit ashamed, as a matter of fact. Ashamed that it's come to this in our country. Embarrassed that there are people in the world who are laughing at us, saying, "Look at the U.S. that's so secure and got their shit together. Look at them now," and so there's some shame there. So all of these feelings, there are many questions that can be asked around how I feel. One of them is, how do I treat myself when I believe this thought? Well, let's see. In truth, I think I'm okay with myself on this one. Oftentimes with the work, you might not treat yourself well when you believe a particular thought. But yeah, I might be a little less present, I'll say. A little less present to the positive when I'm believing this thought. And so I might even treat myself or others negatively in some degree. So I'd love to hear. In fact, if you want to put in the chats, you can answer these questions with me if you want. Is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? How do you feel when you believe these thoughts? So feel free to join in. So the next question, just to cut to the chase here, the most important question in my estimation is, and again, I'll invite you to close your eyes for this, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching this as a review, and just really close your eyes and go deep and think, who would I be without this thought? Who would I be without the thought that these people should not have stormed the Capitol? If this thought did not exist, I would be at a higher level of peace. I'd feel more freedom. I wouldn't say I've been worrying about this at all, but many of you probably have. So I'm going to put that down. Wouldn't be worrying. Worry less. I would be in a greater state of trust. Okay. And so now, I'll give you a minute to process that. You may have more feelings around this. Who would you be without the thought they should not have stormed the Capitol? So now we get to the turnarounds. There are three kinds of turnarounds. The opposite, toward the other, and toward the self. So the first question is, or the first turnaround is the opposite. So what we do with the work now is we come up with a statement of the opposite and how that could be true, some evidence for how it could be true. And so the opposite would be, the mob should have stormed the Capitol. Excuse me, I have an itchy nose right now. So the mob should have stormed the Capitol. How could that be true? And again, feel free to play around and put it in the comments. For me, what I'm going to write down is, they should have stormed the Capitol because it's a dynamic in our country that has come to a head. And as a result of this dynamic, some things are going to change. There are going to be some positive resolutions that come into play. Just saw a a bit of a speech on TV by Biden, and I was pretty inspired by it. And it's a calling for healing. There's never in my lifetime been as much division as we see in the world, in our country, as there is today. And so this and any act of violence is a call for healing. And so in the same way that we've seen so much racial injustice in the last several years, call for healing, call for resolution. And so things like this must happen if we are to heal. A phrasing came up to me recently. We cannot do our inner emotional healing work, our shadow work, without feeling the discomfort that comes. And so the phrase that came to me is, we can't heal them until we feel them. So this brings up all these feelings of outrage, fear, shame. And so if it's a good thing that this event happened to bring these feelings up so that I can heal them within myself, so that I can do this work that we're doing right now together. So that's one evidence that they should have stormed the building. Maybe there's some truth. This is a stretch for me and my political leanings and my political philosophy, but maybe there is some outrage on the side of these protesters that some kind of need that is not being addressed. Perhaps there is some truth in our electoral system, in the election system that has not been addressed that needs to be. And so this can call attention to that. Some of the senators yesterday in the certification of the election brought that up. And, while it may not be in alignment with my own political leanings, there's something to be looked at here that may not be addressed, that maybe we can tighten up our electoral system, our election system, in a way that there's less question about whether there's fraud or not. So there's another evidence. Let's see if I can come up with a third. And again, if you're watching live and you want to post something, feel free to do that. Why else should they have stormed the building? Well, what popped into my head, which may be, kind of not that important in the grand scheme of things, but I have a feeling it's going to lead to some understanding as I am questioning this, is that they should have had more security, right? There's another evidence. Why was there not more security? A very good friend of mine, my dear friend and prayer partner, Reverend Steve Rambo, yesterday, while this was going on, we were having a phone call, and he said, if this was a group, and I'm not the first person to say this, you've probably heard this already, but a group of Black Lives Matter that was protesting, there would have been a lot more security. Anyone have any argument with that? In fact, if Black Lives Matter had stormed the White House, I am quite certain there would have been a slaughter. There would have been many, many people killed. So is that fair? Obviously not. So that's another reason that this should have happened, for that very statement and comparison to be made for a higher level of justice in our country. So there's three evidences for why, the opposite, for why this mob should have stormed the Capitol. So how do I feel as a result of that? I feel less outrage, less fear, less ashamed, because I'm seeing this particular thought, this belief, from a different perspective. Okay, toward the other. So actually I'm going to move toward the self first, because this is really inspiring, is how do I storm myself. That's the third turnaround, right? How do I storm myself? How do I create a breach toward my own capital, right? Toward my own center of justice. So how am I going to answer that question? There are times when I question myself. There are times when I may even sabotage myself in very subtle ways, right? Does this ring true for any of you? Ways that we might sabotage ourselves, ways that we might storm our own integrity or maybe go against our own integrity. That's what's coming up for me. And so I storm myself, evidence for that. So that's it. You know, there are times when I go against my own integrity. There are times when I am not true to my own ideals. I love that. Maybe I'll save that in a moment. The poem by Orion Mountain Dreamer, The Invitation. Go ahead and Google that and look it up. There's one line in it that says, am I willing to trying to think of the exact quote here. Wish I had in front of me, but to be true, to betray others to be true to myself, or to turn that around. Do I sometimes betray myself in order to placate others, right? That's a way that I might storm my own capital, my own righteousness. Okay, let's move to the other. So the mob should not have stormed the Capitol. To turn that around, the Capitol has stormed the mob. So what kind of evidence can I come up for that truth? That's a tricky one. But I think they might be similar to the opposite. That how has the Capitol not served maybe both sides of the polarity that we see in our country? How has our government not addressed the needs of the people who are protesting? And how has the government not addressed the needs of the people who are on the opposite side, the people who are protesting for the liberal point of view or Black Lives Matter, for example? So what are all the ways that our government needs to change to serve the people better? So I'm going to leave it at that point. We could come up with a couple more evidence for that. But I think you get a sense of how the work works, right? So having walked myself through this process, and I hope for you too as we walk through this process, if you stay long enough with us, that it's brought you to a place as it has to me. I'll just share my own experience. I have less outrage, less fear, less shame, less sadness, and a greater ability now to look at this from many different sides and to now approach it to what are the healthy and positive solutions that can come out of this, rather than just being, again, pulled into that spiral downward of being stuck in the outrage, the fear, the sadness, the shame, and then maybe continuing to just watch the news and which only fuels those feelings, rather than taking this to a deeper level, a level of greater clarity, a level of greater understanding, and perhaps even wisdom. And then applying that in my life, in my relationships, in how do I talk to people who have different political leanings, and how, ultimately what it comes down to is all of this is a call for unity, a call to come together and to listen to each other better, to approach each other with love and understanding. And hey, look, the people who perpetrated this act of violence, also need to be held, that justice needs to be served in this case. So this isn't about getting to a place of, some Pollyanna thing where we're not going to take the steps that are necessary to keep order. But it also adds to this an element of going deeper into the problems and how do we come up with solutions for them. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. I put in the Naomi, thank you for checking in. I need to feel more safe. Very good. Yes, healing opportunities, more awareness. Ron Vale, how do I store myself is brilliant. Thank you, Patrick. So thank you for joining in. And I hope people that are watching this video that didn't have the chance to tune in live actually go through these steps for yourself and see what you come up with. And if you feel moved and you want to explore this at an even deeper level, check out our class. We had our first class Tuesday night. It was just amazing. We've got a few more spaces, so you can go to the link and check it out, and just let me know if you want to join, and we'll see if we got a spot for you. So listen, my friends, let's process our challenges. Let's look to the positive, and let's create positive solutions together. And most of all, let's bring love to everything. That is what the bottom line of what the Byron Katie work is about. And so many spiritual teachings now is that we need to ramp up the vibration of love and bring love into every aspect of our lives and to our political lives. And there's nothing more important than that, my friends. So love to you, and have a fantastic week, and we will see you next week for Thought Shifting Thursdays. Take care now.